Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Jo Stapleton, the co-founder and CEO of EXEO Advisor and Exit Engine. These are firms revolutionizing exit planning for small businesses with the Exit Engine Total Exit Value Assessment. With over 30 years in M&A and entrepreneurship, Jo is helping owners achieve profitable exits. Jo, welcome to Founders Future.
Pleasure to be here, Ammar. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited to dive in because we have a lot of founders that listen to this, and I think some of the insights that you're going to share are going to be very valuable to them. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us back to before you started your companies. What
Mhm.
made you decide to start Exit Engine and then XEO Advisors? And what problems were you looking to solve in the market?
Excellent question. Thanks for asking. And again, thanks for having me on today. It's a real pleasure. The funny thing is about this is that I did not, like most people, I did not set out to be in this business. I think that what I found as I got into the business was that most people fall into this business backwards, right? The business generally has been dominated by people who have been in business for a long time and have like large Rolodexes. By the way, for our younger listeners out there, a Rolodex is a thing that we used to keep phone numbers in right now. So anyway, on your phone, you'll have a long list of people that you've worked with, and you'll know other owners of companies and things like that. And so traditionally, the selling of businesses, the business broker space has been dominated by older people who have who happen to know people who would like to sell their businesses. And the most of the market is dominated by players like that, networks of brokers that are really interested in one thing, finding companies that will sell quickly. So to mostly to private equity companies. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we discovered when we landed in the business. The reason it's important to say this is that I spent most of my career as a consultant of one kind or another.
Okay.
I started off in my very first job was in public relations. I had a journalism degree from the University of Rhode Island. I started off in PR. I quickly moved from public relations into the an advertising side of things and became a copywriter, which is also, by the way, an unheard of transition. The two sides
Yeah.
don't really get along that well, but basically was able to, luckily enough, to be able to move into the creative side of advertising, worked my way up to become a creative director, and eventually saw the internet coming. And this is how I'm showing my age here, but basically back in the early 90s, saw the advent of the internet coming and the way that it was going, and basically decided to, within the framework of the advertising agency I worked for, created the first kind of interactive marketing division, probably one of the first actually in the country. There were some larger agencies doing the same thing, but basically I brought this and was 28 years old, and I wrote the business plan and went to the president of the agency and said, we have to take advantage of this and whatever. And he basically let me do it. I then parlayed that into actually my own firm with a couple of other partners, basically doing a digital marketing firm. And eventually we were able to grow that, sell it. And so that was my first experience in the M&A world, was selling my own company,
Wow.
watching the process of that unfold. And one of the biggest learnings we got out of that was a ultimately the two biggest learnings I got out of it was, first is that you need to watch the transition. Selling the company for a bunch of money is great. Okay. The problem is that when you're expected to be part of a new company and the things that you're doing there are, you're in a completely different culture all of a sudden.
Yeah.
When specifics of things weren't worked out ahead of time, who's going to do what and how it's going to work and how this integration is going to go long term, the results can be very disappointing, and not necessarily from a financial aspect, but from a life standpoint. I think the big mistake that a lot of us made was we didn't know what was next. We wanted to sell the company. We had people come to us and we're like, and there was like almost like a bidding war going on and stuff like that. And the reason was is that it was the late 2000s and it was all about social media. And one of the things that we did at that time was the social media aspect of things, social listening and things like that, that were really valuable to public relations and to clients of in the capital market space and things like that. Public companies that needed to understand their reputation and stuff like that. And so that was a big reason why we were acquired. What I also learned was that and this is the learning that I carry through today, is that the selling of your company has most people happens by luck and not by work.
Yeah.
And the problem is that with that is that when I got into it, I realized that the results are just horrifying.
Yeah.
80% of business owners, and this is together with small business and the middle market, okay, so not including public companies, but middle market up to $100 million, 80% of them die on the vine.
Mm,
Now that's after making it the 5 year mark where you're
yeah.
considered to be successful. Okay.
Yeah.
So after 5 years, somewhere between 5 and 30, 40, 50 years, okay, people are what we saw were people that were having companies that they were just closing the doors one day. Maybe the ones that were selling 20% or so, we found that the common things that they were doing was that they were one of two things. Either they were in a very just highly desirable aspect, a highly desirable industry from an M&A standpoint. And again, I'm talking about mostly from a private equity standpoint, which is where most of the money comes from. And also, and they were either that or they were companies that were so well put together that they were hard to resist. And that
Yeah.
they could have been strategic buyers coming after them as well as private equity firms. So those are the kind of the two groups. So when we got into the business brokerage thing, and that's how I got into it, was I was one of those guys with a Rolodex, and maybe I knew some people that were going to have been in business for a long time who were looking to exit, and I might be helpful in that aspect. The other problem that we found with the industry was that was this notion that everybody works on a contingency basis and everybody works for that big fee they're going to get when they actually sell the company. And in the meantime, they provided almost no value. Okay. In fact, it was against our business model to provide any kind of real value
Yeah.
because we weren't getting paid for it. Okay.
Yeah.
What we were being paid
And
for.
just sorry to cut you off. This is
Sure.
just to clarify. This is when you're in the advisory role, a company is coming to you, hey, we want to sell. Those people get paid on the back end once the deal actually happens, but they're not really incentivized to
Right.
help the company maybe sell at a bigger price, maximize the value.
That's it. And one of the problems is that the most people, the brokers aren't in that business. The brokers are guys who are hooking people up. I've signed an agreement with a private equity company on contingency. They'll pay me if I bring them a selling company that they close a deal with.
Got it.
If they close a deal with, do you know that less than 50% of the deals that are on the table close? So
Yeah.
what you've created is I have to have a lot of irons in the fire so that I can make $100,000 or $200,000 a year as a business broker. Okay, because I'm
Yeah.
splitting with the company I work with. It's just like a real estate business and things like that. And so the
Yeah.
model we saw was broken. Okay. And so in all my years of the long story short, and it's not too late, or not too early soon, rather, is to say that the years of consulting experience of from a marketing standpoint, helping clients, operations, all the marketing experience I had and my partners had brought us to this new kind of model where what we really saw was the kind of help that a public company gets with an investment bank. Okay,
Hmm.
operating the company, like actually helping you operate the company, helping you
Yep.
make strategic decisions, bringing capital, stuff like that. Okay. That's what was missing from this lower
Hmm.
market. All right.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of people that are technically in the Main Street market, which would be a million and under, who will one day cross over and become
Mhm.
that lower middle market company with a little help. And so what we discovered essentially was that the hole in the marketplace is that there is nobody really helping these companies a acquire capital so that they can grow, so that they can become more valuable and they can
Yep.
be more sellable. Okay. So
Yep.
basically that basic process right there is what is missing really from most of the whatever 100 million businesses that are in the country. Okay. So that one thing led us to, hey, let's create our own advisory firm,
Yep.
help people basically get capital. That's how, by the way, you can afford us is because we help you find money so that you can afford to pay us for the operational work, the assistance in helping you accelerate your growth.
Yeah.
So what we say is, what would you do if you had an extra $3 million? Your company would look completely different, wouldn't it?
100%.
If you had the ability to be able to say, I got $1 million in a line of credit, would be enough for most companies to take exceptional steps forward in growth.
Yeah.
And what is actually keeping people from doing that is the ability to acquire capital and the knowledge it takes to be able to understand what it takes to be able to acquire capital. So, in other words, there's finance, there's debt, there's equity sale,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of there's investment, there's obviously there's angel investment, there's seed investment. Depending on where you are in the journey, there's all kinds of different investment out there. Companies that can show good revenue and are already healthy companies have an advantage in terms of getting that capital, whether it's debt or investment. The problem is most companies, especially at a certain stage, okay, are actually bootstrapped or hamstrung rather, really, but strapped by cash.
Yeah.
All the revenue that they're generating is going into paying salaries and getting stuff, and it might be growing slowly, but you don't have enough to be able to take those next leaps and really grow the value and saleability of the company. So,
100%.
so that's where we play. And what we've discovered along the way was it's one thing to be able to, we're a consulting company, okay? At our core, our model is very much a consulting company. And we understand as consultants what the problems with the scalability of that is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we've done is realize that, hey, the stuff that we're doing can all be packaged up and provided to people to do themselves if they had the bandwidth and the wherewithal to do so. And if we gave them a community that was filled with experts who could help them
Yep.
at when they needed to, and gave them the steps to take and the information, what they don't know to be able to examine their own businesses and be
Yep.
able to do this stuff. They can do it themselves if they could. And so we created this thing called Exit Engine.
Got it.
Basically, is a community for kind of a do-it-yourself kind of exit. We call it do-it-yourself exit planning. But the reality is that once you're in a member of Exit Engine, and it's a subscription model, we're going to get a plan specifically for you to follow to be able to to grow your value and saleability in a kind of procedural way. All right. You're going to have access to potential to people who can give you capital. You're going to have access to other experts, or what we call advisory partners, who are experts in certain facets of business that you can bring to bear based on your needs. Okay.
Hmm.
And so that's what Exit Engine is.
Got it.
And so we're currently right now in the stage of launching Exit Engine. So
Yeah.
what we get out of that is we get to two things. One is that we get to be able to it helps us maintain our kind of operational revenue in a predictable way and helps us take more risks with our clients. In
Yeah.
other words, we don't have to charge the same fees that an investment bank charges because we have the ability to keep ourselves afloat. What we can do is come in and we can help you in ways in less expensively out of pocket and then help you still get that same kind of growth acceleration. And when you get that first initial capital, right now you can afford to pay us and our partners and whatever to do the next step of growth.
Got it.
And then we're going to put you back into the capital markets and get the next round.
Yep. Yeah.
That process follows a thing. Does that make sense? So that's
That makes perfect sense. And this is huge, by the way. There's a huge need in the market because a lot of these companies, like you were saying, the main street, the small businesses, the mid-market, they don't hit the minimums necessary for the investment bank, but they also just don't have the capital necessary to pay those engagement fees. And then on top of the success fees on the back end and all those different things.
that's it.
So the success fee is different. That's easy, but it's
Well,
from
and you're right, but let me throw you one more wrinkle, okay? And that is that what we do is we'll credit back when you finally exit or make a big series and get a large investment or things like that, we will credit back all the money that we've charged
Wow.
in favor of the 7.5% success fee.
Amazing.
Essentially, what happens is that the investor or the buyer is the one flipping the bill for the entire
Yeah.
thing.
Amazing. Walk me through. So just so I can get a clear picture in my mind, I'm going to tell you what I've understood so far, and then you can plug in the gaps. So Exit Engine is the do-it-yourself model where you're giving them basically, hey, here's all the playbooks, here's the blueprints, the frameworks that you need to implement to be able to strategically maximize the value of your company once you're ready for an exit. And then EXEO Advisory sounds like or advisor, sorry, is the consultancy on the back end of, hey, once you've got some initial traction, let us help you really take this to the next level. Basically, give you an investment bank level service at a fraction of the cost.
That's exactly it. You nailed it. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yep. And
Perfect.
again, any place along the way, and the people that we've got working. So we've got at Exit Engine, we've got advisory partners who are again outsourced. That's going to be lawyers and accountants and marketing people and sales specialists and any of the things that you need to bring could potentially need to bring to bear to accelerate your growth. Okay.
Got it.
We're gonna give you access to our capital networks. Okay. With all the people, whether it's debt financing, whether it's our investor network, things like that. And the best part is that what we're going to do at Exit Engine, this is for all of our clients, EXEO, Exit Engine doesn't matter. You're going to start to get featured now as a company that is worth investing in. So what we're doing is now bringing, not chasing, but attracting the investment community. Look at these companies who are in various states of growth.
Yeah. And these are, I just want to harp on this. These are connections that they otherwise would never be able to get on their own. It's the Rolodexes, like you were saying.
That's
You
it.
have
It's
that. And that's,
simply a matter of this is what we do, and what
yeah,
you do is what you do, right? And
yeah,
so, what one of the things that, and of course, because we are working at this level often with founders and single owners, right? It might be a partnership or whatever, but generally speaking, we're not talking about something with a giant board of directors yet and stuff like that, right? We're talking about companies in the five, really the heart of it is the five to 25 million, $5 to $30 million range. Okay.
yep,
Which again, that's revenue. Okay. So, the EBITDA on that might be 20%, right? Might be 10% in there or whatever. So
yep,
idea is that so now your multiple is what, 4 or 5, maybe 6 times that. If you're a SaaS company, it might be 12, might be 20. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
But the idea is that you're going to get you not only can you not don't know who these people are, but generally speaking, you can't afford them. And the reason that you can afford them this way is because they are part of this network with us, and you're getting our leverage, right? Because we're bringing so many people to the table.
I love it.
And so the idea, and not only that, you're going to get help from other founders, other
Yeah, yeah,
people who are similar. And often what we find is that the guy in your cohort who's on the same track as you or whatever, who owns an advertising agency, and you have a product company, right? Suddenly you guys now potentially are a good match from a partnership standpoint or whatever, because even though you're right, and so a deal can happen there so that you could potentially have access to somebody who's just also in the program. And so ideas that we're trying to make, what we're trying to do with Exit Engine at the end of the day is allow people to be able at an even greater price point break, okay, be able to actually get access to the people and everything else that they just don't know who or where to go. And that was the biggest issue that we found. Most people just don't know what they don't know.
yeah. 1000%. And there's a lot of second and third order benefits that come as a result of this, like the network, like the random people that you're gonna create relationships with, and who knows where that's gonna lead.
That's exactly right. You don't need, and you could find a strategic partner this way, right? A strategic,
1000%.
yeah, all that stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
Let's shift over to the business aspect of it. I feel like we understand what the offer is, how you help people. How do you generate leads? Like, how do you bring the businesses that you want to work with on board?
It's a great question. So we have so one of the other things that everything that we do around here plays off the Exit Engine theme. Okay. And that's, so it's named this on purpose. And obviously it's not just about exiting your company. It's obviously greater than that. We have a value acceleration situation here really at our core. Okay. But again, even that is a engineered situation. And so we even at EXEO, we call our client success people, the people who manage you through the process and bring in the right people to bear and all that stuff. We call them exit engineers,
Yeah,
because we know that good exits eventually are engineered. They're not just, you don't just luck out into them, right?
yeah,
But the idea here is that from a business standpoint, we are also creating a new business engine. Okay. And the reason that we're doing this is, again, goes back to, again, this consulting thing. I've been a consultant my entire life in one way or another. Okay. I know what the problems with having a consulting business are. Okay. And the scale of it is the biggest issue. Okay. We
Sure.
want our plan is that we want EXEO to be the name of the arena in Philadelphia. Okay. So my goal is not just to help, my goal is to help 1,000 business owners, right, transition by 2030.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's John, my partner and I, that's our mission. And we've stated that mission, and that's what we're all about, which is why we're doing it in the way in which we're doing it. It was so hard to have buyer clients who were searching for these companies and unable to find people to buy.
Yeah.
That the other end of this is that there are people who have worked and slaved and built an incredible thing over 30 years.
Yeah.
They're lucky enough to have been paid themselves 200 or 300 grand a year, and they've taken that private money and or after tax money or whatever, and they've gone and they've invested it, and so they're doing well and whatever. Okay. But
Yeah.
they are leaving a major asset, and oftentimes that major asset is tied up, is your retirement, or at least it's planned to be your retirement. And when you end up not being able to do anything with it, or not being able to grow it to a level at which the money you eventually get is enough for you to retire on, that's one of the reasons why we're in the state we are from an economic standpoint in this country. And I don't mean about the rolling economy. The fact that we haven't seen yet all these people transfer, these baby boomers transfer all this wealth to the next generation. They are holding on to it because this is their income,
Yeah.
and because they can't sell their businesses.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. No, and I love the mission, by the way, 1,000 business owners exit by 2030, and to be on the arena, that's amazing. Practically speaking, though, are you like doing outreach? Are you doing paid ads? What does it look like to bring people into the exit engine ecosystem?
So right now, we've got a bunch of different things going. We are very much about test, optimize, and scale. Okay. So basically everything that we do, and again, I come from a digital marketing space. So, the reality is that's how I look at everything. But basically, yeah, it's a combination of a bunch of things. So the first thing is that we do a lot of cold email outreach.
Okay.
It's cold. Oh, the first thing we did was we started a podcast.
Yep.
The reason is that because the podcast gives us the ability to be able to show our expertise. It gives us ability to be able to, like you, potentially go after clients this way. It has the ability to be able to go after partners, talk to partners, and create those partner relationships and all that stuff. So most of the people that we're partners with are people that have been on our podcast. And because we've liked what they've said and they've been aligned in terms of missions and things like that. And remember, in this, we can talk about whatever the gig economy or whatever you want, but the reality is there's so many people who have left corporate jobs to go after on their own consulting businesses, fractional COOs, fractional CEOs, fractional CMOs. There are people out there who are willing to go into your business the way that we do. And that's why we can leverage these partnerships. It's not about going after big, large consulting firms, obviously. It's about going after these partners. So that these individual
Yeah.
consultants, this is an explosion right now, and LinkedIn and all that stuff has helped create that. So back to your question, though, we've got basically a combination of cold email outreach, and we've got an EXEO campaign. We've got an EXEO strategy, and we've got an exit engine strategy, and they basically meet in the middle. And essentially, what happens is that we are either upselling. The exit engines upsell to EXEO, and the EXEO emails downsell to exit engine.
Got it. And those are email campaigns. Do you do
Correct.
any paid ads or anything like that?
So we had a programmatic buy that we were doing a whole thing that I wouldn't do it again probably, but no, the next thing that we will add now, what we will do is start layering on. Okay, so essentially what
Okay.
we're doing is we start with this email stuff. We start layering on LinkedIn outreach together with it. Okay, so basically the data that we're buying gives us all that. Okay, and we're able to touch them. What we figure is that in our business, there's about 7 touches before close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw that Google report as well. Like somebody needs to see you 7 times before they end up buying something on average.
Yep. And that ends up actually being pretty accurate.
Yeah. 100%. Walk me through. That's why the layering is so powerful
And
because
then the next thing is layering the social media advertising, social media selling, which
yeah.
is, I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan. And so I think that again, that everything right now should be aimed at social and all that stuff. It's how we find investors. We use these same tools and turn them around to go and find investors.
Yeah.
right? And to reach out to that
Yeah.
community and all that stuff. So we've got
And that's the space that really the investment banking industry is behind on, the cold
so
email, all these different things.
it was the impetus. We were at a brokerage firm, which is where I met my partners. And the reality is that we were sitting there going, I got into this thing as a marketing guy, going, where is the email? Where is the outreach?
Yeah.
What are you doing to go get this stuff? The model was relying on individual people to go and make individual contact. And they were talking about mailing letters. It was still 1992.
Yeah. The deal origination is just so behind, but walk me through the sales process. So I'm assuming with Exit Engine and Exio, it's different, right? Because it's different price points, different offerings. So to me, it feels like Exit Engine is direct to cart. I could be wrong. And then Exio is like a call. But what does that sales process look like from start to finish?
Excellent question. Actually, they both to call. And so
Okay.
the reality is that eventually we think that the exit engine thing will stand on its own. And from an advertising standpoint, it will be self-generating. It will just be, it will be a machine.
Membership site, you go in, fill in your information.
Correct. Do that thing, sign up yourself. Everything is self-serve, and you're right there, and you're taking an assessment, and you're getting placed into a track, and you're doing all that stuff. All that stuff is there, right? But
Are you guys, do you have a team in place for the sales or do you run it yourself?
no, right now we run. I have a team that handles exit engine.
Okay, got it.
And the reason is that, again, because there's a lot of technology there, there's a lot of build out and a lot of stuff. And again, the engine is definitely it's a more traditional online sales funnel. Okay. Right now we are driving to call, and here's why. Because again, from exit engine. And the reason we are is because we need people to take this assessment.
Yeah.
And the problem, what we found is people don't want to take an assessment. They don't, it's
Yeah,
even if it's 2.5 minutes long. We couldn't get anybody to take the assessment. It was the last thing that we did. And the reason was, again, this is all learning. And I think that the reason is, again, is that it becomes, again, there's a lot of education here.
Yeah.
People think my buddy just sold his company for $20 million. I could do the same thing. And they think that they're just going to do that. And the problem is that they don't know what they don't know. Our big thing is that your company is an iceberg. Okay. And all this stuff above the waterline is great. And it's you. That's you. That's
Yeah.
you as the founder. You have created all this stuff. Okay. And you're created revenue and you're involved in all the decisions and all the stuff. And boy, this company couldn't be anything without you. Okay. Below the waterline, okay, is a whole heap of trouble that you're not aware of. Things that you have done to your business that you had to do to grow it will now suddenly work against you when you
Yeah.
are trying to sell your company or trying to find growth capital or any of that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And so these are the things that people don't know. So we've come up with this total, what we call the total exit value system, which is basically 10 areas of your business that we can examine. And what we can do is we can find hidden value, latent value. We can change financials. We can do better financial. There's so many things just from a baseline standpoint that you can examine first before you even worry about anything else.
Yeah.
You've raised the value of your company just by, and sometimes it's not always this simple, but sometimes just by redoing your books.
For
Okay.
sure.
So the reality is that's a starting place. Again, the reason we drive to this call is that we want people we first of all, we want them to see the faces. Okay. And the reality is that there are people, business has gotten a bad rap that it is somehow anti-human. And the reality is that it can't be further from the truth. All business is human beings collaborating in one fashion or another, probably in multiple ways, right, to be able to achieve an outcome. But we are all taught to separate the emotion, to being the thing. It's all about business. It's don't right. And the reality is that there's nothing more human than actually trying to grow a business and then exit it. And that means, what I mean by that is that there is a huge emotional component, especially if you've been in the business for a long time. The thing I described before about you as the owner being involved in every single aspect of your business and all that stuff is the worst thing that you can do for your business.
Yeah. No, for sure. Because it's attractive to private equity firms.
That's exactly right. And so now you're in a situation where and by the way, selling to a private equity firm could also be the worst thing you could do for your business.
Yeah.
And I say that again, I love private equity firms. There's a lot of value there in terms of things, and they can make founders very wealthy. Okay. The problem is that they have a completely different agenda than you,
1000%.
and
Yeah.
a completely different agenda than a strategic buyer would have. So
Mm,
what we try to do is try to focus actually most of the time on strategic buyers because, and by the way, the other way that you grow is by being an acquirer yourself.
yeah, for sure.
So
I'm super
the
curious. Like,
human aspect of this is very important, and it can't be underplayed because again, we're talking about people who have never done this before. You have no idea what you're doing, and the big thing is what got you here won't get you there.
I love that. I can see just the people listening to this. There's so many takeaways that they could, and then also check out Exit Engine, EXEO Advisory. What do you feel like are the biggest challenges that you guys are facing as Exit Engine and EXEO Advisory right now? What are you working through?
Always test, optimize, and scale, right? Like we're always in that mode. We are just beginning to scratch the surface on what Exit Engine itself, that meaning the Exit Engine community can be. But one of the things that I can give you that I think is probably maybe the best piece of advice that I've received over the years, and something that I had a hard time actually putting into practice until we came up with EXEO and Exit Engine. You need, as an entrepreneur, you need to listen to the market.
Hmm.
Okay. As a founder, you need to go in with the idea and then you need to be open to the way that it's implemented and open to pivot. Okay. And the biggest thing that I can give the founders, and I coach founders on this all the time, is to allow yourself not to be too rigid in terms of what your original idea was and what the market actually tells you is possible. And but what you need to do is you need to get data.
Yeah,
Right? You need to put something out there. You need to get it, and it doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. That's the other thing. The thing that we learned, and we're really implementing this time, is that you don't wait for it to be right. You need to be able to put something out there for people to react to. The market will tell you what to do. The market will tell you what direction to take. We've done this already in our short history. We have pivoted, mild pivots, not major stuff, but enough to change the nature. We started Exit Engine as a class. Okay.
yeah,
And the problem with the class is I'm a busy entrepreneur with a thing. I don't, what are you talking about? A course. I can't get into this.
yeah,
Course. No, of course you can't do that. But what we can do is we can put all these things in your way. And if we make it a community, and by the way, we send you a text to remind you to go to your financial guy today and do right and make sure you get these or make sure that these documents are coming out correctly or whatever.
yeah.
That's a tiny little piece of advice, right? That can make a huge difference in someone's life in terms of what
So
they're.
it's 100%. If someone joins Exit Engine, is it like a series of coaching calls, one-on-one group coaching, and then maybe some classroom stuff in terms of coursework? What does that look like practically?
Yeah, I think practically it is a combination of those things, but it's more like short webinars. It's more coachy, more here's the content, the learning that you need to be in your way, and it comes across in bite-sized, digestible pieces,
Yeah,
right?
there's no fluff.
Correct. The idea is just it's examine this, and we're giving you everything. We're
Yeah,
giving you everything that Exio does here.
yeah,
Okay. You can have this. We just want you to be successful in exiting.
yeah,
Okay. We want you to figure out and to know what you don't know and go, oh, the aha moments of, oh, if I go to my accountant who's my cousin, right? And I change accountants and go to some guy who's looking at this from a completely different perspective, he's going to look at it from an exit perspective and he's going to change everything you're doing. This is the thing. Most people are managing their businesses to taxes.
yeah,
And it comes to selling your business, that's the exact opposite of what you want to do. Because
yeah,
all the taxes and all that money and all that stuff and the money that you've been paying yourself needs to go back into the company because that won't be something that's taken out by the next owner. Like understanding what EBITDA is. I mean, that's the level, honestly, that we're operating at. People just don't know that this is a thing. And they
yeah,
don't know, and again, they are working their asses off. You got to remember, man, this is 30 years of slaving away, building myself a job. Not a, I haven't built, most of the time, I haven't built an asset.
Exactly. I was just about to say that they haven't built an actual asset that is actually valuable in the marketplace where other people can look at it and be like, okay, I want to pay you a very attractive sum of money to take this off your hands.
Absolutely.
Or
And,
a
and
strategic partner that comes in, give me a percentage of the equity, and you still walk away. This is extremely valuable for everybody listening. And so Exit Engine hasn't launched yet, or it has launched.
no, Exit Engine hasn't launched yet. So we're looking at actually a May launch for this stuff right now. We're right now recruiting our first cohorts into this platform. Very new, like I said, it's a matter of this again, it's a vision. But again, this will grow and change. And I think again, the idea is that to know that if you're any kind of founder or entrepreneur out there, is that there are things that you have to try to do. You got to put them in front of real people, and you've got to get their real feedback, and they will speak to you. We made a pivot at Exio this week.
Yeah, yeah. Move fast and break things.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm a huge believer in failing fast. Okay.
Fast, fail
Failure
forward.
is something that is failure is something that I have embraced my entire life. It's
Yeah,
hard to do that because there's a lot of people around us that want us to be need us to be successful. I'm not 30 years old, okay, as you can tell.
thought
I
you were
am
like 28 or something.
thank you. That's very nice of you to say, but if you're watching this on video, you would know the truth. The idea is that I've had a lot of different businesses and most of them have been not successful. I need to make this very clear. Most of the businesses I have been involved in have been not successful. Okay. And that's because I've tried a lot of things and done a lot of stuff and had a lot of ideas and tried to find the thing that was a good match for who I am and where the market is and all that stuff. And that's not easy to do. Okay. It
Yeah,
also takes a great deal of support around you to be able to do that. And I'm obviously grateful to my family and everything else that I've had the ability to make these mistakes.
yeah,
Okay. Part of it is probably white privilege, to be completely honest with you. Okay. So I understand that and it's not lost on me. It's not possible for everybody to be able to do what I did and to find the 16 things until finally one of them works. Right. But the reality is that what you can do is if you are open to failure, and that you don't look at failure as a personal affront or that it's some kind of blot on your character, which is what most people look at it as. But failure is a way of being able to, it's not failure, it's research. Okay.
yeah,
It's the ability to be able to ask the market what the market thinks, and the market will tell you. And the market told us early on, I don't even know what you mean.
yeah,
What do you mean exit planning? I've got no idea what that is. It sounds like something I don't need. And it sounds like someone is just blah, 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 blah. I'm busy. I got to run my business. I've got a thing to do. I got to know. But what we figured out was, oh, wait, but you need money, don't you?
yeah.
You need money to grow. And so that is basically we discovered is that's our key and that's the way in. They
100%.
want all the other value. They want all the other stuff, right?
Yeah,
It's just a matter of, but what's the real pain? And the real pain is I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. And I need a place where I can be, where a safe place where I can be okay not knowing what I'm doing in secret.
for sure. I love that. Failure is research, failure is feedback. Just the market is telling you how to iterate.
And but you got to do it fast. Right. And again, what's helped tremendously is things like AI.
Yeah,
Right. Now
yeah,
you're in a position where content, where there are things that you can do now where you can fail fast. You can get instant feedback, right?
yeah,
You can get this stuff much faster than you could when I was having the last big company I had. We didn't have any of this stuff. We
yeah,
barely had, it was social media was new.
yeah. I love
LinkedIn was,
that.
LinkedIn was, don't bother me. You don't know me.
Yeah. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your time. What's the best place for people to reach you?
So we are very open to feedback all the time, and are happy to answer any questions all the time. You can email me directly. Okay, this is my email address, my work email address, Jo, it's just Joe Jo at myexitengine.com. The best place to do it. You can talk to me directly. Again, we are in a place where the most important thing to us is that we help people understand and to realize the value that they have created and not allow it to just basically just fall to the wayside. I can't tell you how much. Look, I know from experience what it's like to lose a business, and it sucks. and it sticks with you. It makes you feel like a failure. Oftentimes there can be real life consequences, right? I have lost everything. Okay. But I've found a way back from it. And the reality is that it's a matter of you keeping going and keeping your eyes open, right? And a lot of that is about being able to get over yourself. Get out there and start and test the market with something. Get it out there. Get a LinkedIn group. Be able to do something that allows people to feedback on your big idea and allows you to basically understand what the market wants and to make those adjustments. And that will be something that you do all the time, even in our methodology, okay, of that basically is like raise some miniature capital, accelerate some growth with it, repeat,
I love that.
back in the market, get more capital, grow again. That's the way businesses grow. They don't grow purely out of revenue. They don't.
Yeah. No, you make a lot of great points. I really appreciate your time.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. It was really great to be here again. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course. So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Again, I wanted to thank you, Joe, for sharing your incredible journey and a lot of insights with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep on climbing.